But jizz. So today's episode is on HALT. And so for folks at home who are listening, or if you're in the car, or if you're walking, or if you're at the gym, I don't know when you listen to us, but HALT stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Some people even add an S at the end and they say hungry, angry, lonely, tired, stressed. But basically what this refers to, it's an acronym, and it refers to risk states, or states when we are most vulnerable, right? And so sometimes in the rooms of AA or other 12-step programs or recovery-based programs for folks dealing with substance or process addiction, HALT becomes very useful because when we are in these states, say we're hungry or we're angry, or we're lonely, we're tired, or the new one is stressed, then we know that we might not be our best selves. We might know that our thinking might be a little skewed. And so we have Mike on today to join this conversation because he radiates calm. Absolutely. And he, I don't know what you're like when you're angry. What are you like when do you get angry? When was the last time you were angry?
The last time I got angry was when I called the person who burned my apartment down to tell him that he burned my apartment down.
Oh,
I think that's one of the only persons I've ever yelled at.
That's a good reason to get angry. Get
mad. Yeah. So when we talk, well, first off, we have 3 questions for you.
Okay.
We ask all of our guests these 3 questions, and you have 3 minutes to answer these 3 questions. So it's basically kind of like 1 minute per question.
Okay. Fire away.
And we're so good at cutting you off.
Because you know what? We only have so much time. We only have so much time, and life is precious.
I don't want to cut into your time.
Yeah. And you already are.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
And I'm already feeling a little resentful. Like even right now, we should have started this like a minute ago.
Oh.
Question one. Where are you from?
I am originally from Los Angeles, California.
No way.
Queen of the Valley Hospital, West Covina, California.
I thought you were calling yourself Queen of the Valley.
Well, I did when I came out to my mom.
Yeah.
In the Middle Ages, I commented, I was born in Queen of the Valley, and I said my little brother and sister were born there, so there was still hope, and she did not like that at all.
Did you say still hope?
Yeah, I'm the only queer person in my family.
Okay, that is not where I thought you were going with that. Did you mean to say what you just did about still hope?
That might be
like stillbirth.
No, there's still hope.
Oh, that's what I thought you were saying.
Still hope that maybe my little
oh
brother
my
or
god.
My little
okay, this whole time, listen. What I thought you were like, because they were still births, their hope. Anyway, that's so horrible. I wish we weren't recording live.
Well, we are.
Oops. I was like, fucking A, Mike. That's so dark. But you weren't saying that. You were saying something.
So it turns out that you're dark.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I didn't go there.
I'm about the perfect shade of mocha. So were you done with that answer?
If you want me to be.
No, I don't. We still have 30 seconds on the clock. Go.
Then I moved to Florida when I was 9, which I thought was terrible.
Where in Florida?
Clearwater, Gulf Coast.
Clearwater.
It's the home of the
when the water comes out clear.
Wow. Okay. You know what?
It is completely nurture, not nature, right? Okay. So
no, I have been working. You know how they talk about the doctor talking about in the book. I have been working on trying to make these psychic changes in you, and that's what I've been doing since we started doing this. And we can come into the light because you are becoming, you are surpassing.
This is part of my 30 seconds. We realize.
Yeah. Oh, not you telling us to stop talking.
Jamie is like, wow.
Mike is from where the water runs clear. Well, that's fantastic. So then you were from Florida, and then how did you get here?
I ended up going to college in the Midwest and came out here when I graduated and did a year of domestic Peace Corps work.
Very cool.
In West Oakland, and realized I loved it out here.
Yeah.
Went back to Notre Dame for graduate school, and then left the seminary, got sober, came out of the closet, and moved here, and that was it.
You went to seminary school?
I did.
See, I think the Christopher thing was right. Anyway, so that's a story for another time.
Yes, so I've been here since 1987. I got here in 85, but I've been here since 1987.
Very cool. Very cool.
What? He wasn't present.
Yeah. What, just right now?
I was here in 85 and then taught and then worked in the sanctuary movement, then went back to Notre Dame in 86.
And what movement?
The sanctuary movement. It was a response to the Reagan administration's treatment of Guatemalan and Salvadoran refugees.
Hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about like some of the your activism because it's been so impactful. For folks who don't know, wasn't there a day named after you in San Francisco?
I've actually had 3.
3 days named after you?
I had 3 days.
It's nothing.
Excuse me.
No, they yes. I was really honored to
I
have
have
that time.
I have half a week.
And you're like, I own this town.
I have
Weren't you also
I'm gonna now say I have
weren't
half a
you-
week. I have half a week.
Mike?
Yes.
Louis, stop it. Mike, were you Mike, weren't you also given sainthood by the sisters?
I was sainted in 2013 and also was Grand Marshal for the Gay Pride Parade in 2016.
Yeah, the fuck
Nice.
you were.
And
And
luckily was fortunate enough to have my recovery community following me in the cart.
yeah.
And had an amazing time.
Yeah.
Showcasing the CCC.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and you know, I think this is like a perfect example of like when we say someone is like legendary in the community, like that's what you are. You're legendary. Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's really cool.
I'm grateful to be alive.
Yeah.
And
I'm grateful
really
you're alive
grateful for
too.
this
Absolutely,
community.
same here.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift to that next question. So that next question is, what made you get sober?
Oh gosh.
It was getting too touchy feely.
Well, no,
like, I can't. My
originally the
feelings.
reason that I got sober when
Yeah.
I was in the seminary was because people were paying attention to me for all the wrong reasons.
Mm.
Friends were saying I drank and did drugs like crazy in the seminary. And the following mornings, people would say, you smell like beer.
Uh-huh.
You smell like scotch, which
Yeah.
is what I was drinking. And so I didn't like that kind of attention. And so I went on campus, took the 10 question, are you an alcoholic quiz, scored 10 out of 10 because I'm a good test taker.
Yeah.
And then to get people off my back, I went into a rehab program. Just honestly, my first bout of recovery was just about getting people off my back.
Of course,
Yeah.
for a lot of us, it was.
Absolutely.
But it was also the beginning of a process of realizing that I liked myself more than I disliked myself.
Yeah.
Right.
So coming out, leaving the Catholic Church, being an out gay man, those are all really important steps that were all sort of tied into my initial bout of recovery.
Yeah. So how much time do you have now?
I have 13 plus years now. I had 10 years.
Mhm.
And on the day of my 10th anniversary in 1997, I relapsed
Mhm.
and had a 13-year relapse that was just crystal meth. I think that says it all. It was just
Oh
terrible.
yeah, crystal. My fucking crystal meth, man. That's all I need to say about that. But yeah, I'm glad you're here. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you made it out alive.
I'm incredibly glad I made it out alive.
Yeah.
Although Louis can attest to how fried I was when I came in. It took a long time to sort of achieve a sense of being in my brain and in my body and in my soul at the same time. It took a lot of time in early recovery to get that.
I'm only looking at my watch because you went over the minute. So we're gonna go over to the next question.
I'm living for this.
Yeah. No, you're fantastic, but there's so much I want to talk to you about. What?
No.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here. It's like knowing you and knowing these things, but hearing them now, it's like
Isn't it crazy?
we could have a whole show just listening. And
Yes.
but that's the amazing thing about recovery and about the folks because there's something special about all of us.
Yes.
It's just that we kind of get in our way.
Yes. Amen. I like absolutely. And we'll go back to the last question. But that's certainly been my experience. Like when people get sober, like they become these extraordinary beings. They do extraordinary things, and that feels like it's something that's like very unique to the recovery community. You know what I mean? It's like we spend all this time running around in circles, and then the second we get out of our way and we find a part that's greater than ourselves, we start doing all this great stuff.
Steven's like that.
Steven's like that.
Steven's amazing.
Maybe we should have an episode about that. But let's go back to the last
Yeah.
question so we can talk about being hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and sometimes stressed. So what's your relationship to your higher power?
I have a great higher power. Sort of period. I
love that.
I was raised Catholic. I converted to Judaism several years ago, but I am an absolute atheist. But I also believe that there's a power greater than myself that wants me to be happy, healthy, safe, and protected.
Yeah.
And the longer I stay sober, the less I can give you adjectives about my higher power.
That's
It's
right.
becoming, it was easy at the beginning of this time around to begin to define my higher power because I'd come from such darkness. I knew what lightness was supposed to be or disease to health. And the longer I stay sober, the less and less I've got words for this this contract that I have with this thing that wants something better for me that I'm not able to give to myself.
Right.
I love that. That's beautiful, because I almost feel the same way, because I'm no longer interested in pigeonholing what it is, because what it is so much more than I could possibly comprehend.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We, Anka said that while she was on, Jose said that while he was on.
Mhm.
That's
It's
very
one of my
beautiful.
it's probably one of my favorite subjects about recovery, is to talk about spirituality and higher
Same
power.
here. It's one of
because
my favorite things. Yeah.
I'm really clear. There's 3 things I have to do. I have to be responsible for my recovery, have a higher power, and work the steps. That's sort of,
Mhm.
it's what got me sober this time around, and it's keeping me sober every day.
You heard it here.
You heard it here first. So all of that is to say that, like, you've had some experience with monitoring your internal states, right? Being
Yes.
hungry, angry, lonely, and tired.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about, like, when's the first time, like, you either heard that or decided to, like,
Oh.
when does it come up for you where you actually, like, you see it and then you start living it?
Well, for me, when I do my 10 step at night, when I start reviewing my day and look at, those places where I really acted on a character defect, or really turned left when I should have turned right, part of the assessment is what led up to that sort of bad behavior, or that unkind behavior, that behavior that wasn't consistent with sort of my principle of being sober. And when I do the diagnostic, it's like, oh, I was hungry, I was pissed off, I was tired, I was lonely. Part of it, my diagnostic really does point out where those happen. Part of the challenge, the longer I stay sober, is not relying on the diagnostic at the end of the day to identify when I'm actually in a place of HALT, or actually I think about health, hungry, angry, HE, hungry, what's the
HE.
HE, emotional, hungry, emotional, angry, lonely, horny.
Oh yeah, that's a
I
big
mean,
one.
I put horny in there, particularly for someone who's in recovery for crystal meth addiction.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
sex
yes.
stuff is so intimate but I'm really working on trying to be able to do the diagnostic
Throughout the day.
Yeah.
Like when it's immediately happening, as opposed to at the end of the day saying, oh, that's why I was such a dick.
Are you familiar with the phrase, like, post-nut clarity?
Wow.
Are you? I mean, I'm just asking. Well,
No.
the reason why is because when you talk about being hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? So for anyone who's ever dealt with, like, sex addiction, or has been horny and then has, like, had that, like, resolved for themselves, not you, right? There is a clarity that comes after that, right? And I feel like that, jokes aside, that is a very good example of what happens when you're hungry and you eat something, you're fine. When you're angry and you find, some peace, right? And so it's kind of like hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or stressed. The other side of that essentially is clarity, right? And so when you talk about the 10 steps, so for folks who may not be familiar with 12-step work, a 10-step is, like Mike was saying, is like, at the end of the day, it's looking at like what your behaviors were. Did I yell at someone? Was I angry with someone? Am I resentful at someone? And then looking at what was going on for you during that time that, like, led to that behavior. Right. And so I love what you're pointing to, right? Like, I'm thinking of something that happened to me yesterday, but we can go back to that. How about you, Louis? When you think of, when does HALT come up for you?
Work.
Yeah.
At work.
That's
Well,
real.
no, lately, and I've talked about this before a lot. Like, I have to, I play the tape back and forth. I call it just checking my temperature, checking my motives around things. But really, when it's like when I see certain people at work, I always have to ask myself, where are you at right now? What's going on? Are you hungry? What's going on? Because I have this really bad habit that even when I don't try, I snark. I come across whatever way, and I can create all sorts of wreckage. And so the idea, and the good thing or the bad thing about it is, like, I am affected when I affect people.
That's right.
And I realize that, like, as much as it might feel good in the moment to let somebody have it, it doesn't feel good afterwards. And
No, it never
I don't want to
does,
feel.
yeah.
And so, at work is the main time. Usually outside of it, and I love my friends in recovery because they understand me working retail, that I have a battery that sometimes runs out, and that sometimes I'm just not, like, I had a friend, like, I realized it's like, I get it why you go home. and why, or your days off, you don't want to be around people because I don't have any more to give. I gave, gave, and I gave, and I gave. So yeah.
Yeah. I want to take something back that I said because, you were saying that it doesn't feel good afterward, right? And I said, well, yeah, it never does. But I think part of what like has fucked me up in the past is there have been times where it actually does feel good.
Oh God, yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, what is it? Self-righteous anger, right?
But it's weird because
Mhm.
it's a combination. Like it feels good, but there's something in me that knows that it's not good.
Well, it feels
that
good in the
messes-
same way. Go
That
ahead.
messes me up
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
like there's a part. It's almost like what is addiction? It's like I like that being right, that whatever. But I know that it's not good for me.
What comes up for you, Mike?
Well, the thing that when you said your friends know, for me, I think that's the thing around HALT that really sticks out is I'm better at understanding HALT when it's somebody else.
Mhm.
When like a sponsee or a friend.
Wait, can you say more about what do you mean when you say that when it's somebody else?
Well, I think that
like what are you noticing?
Well, I noticed particularly with sponsees and with my close circle of folks in recovery. I mean, part of the reason that I have a group of people that are part of my recovery is they're the ones that notice it in me before I notice in me. And I usually notice it in them before they notice it in them. And so the idea around HALT being a sort of participatory diagnosis that our friends in recovery say, Louis, you are being really, really
a lot.
So and it's like you talk about why it's so important to have those people because anybody can say it, but if I can't hear you, it is not useful.
I love
and
that.
It's like,
and I'm not the best person to do self-diagnosis on the spot. In fact,
none of us.
My predisposition is that I'm always right.
No,
and
absolutely,
it's always my way.
I come in guns a-blazing. It's like
all the time. You came in guns a-blazing a day.
I didn't.
You know what? I feel as though this is a pot meet kettle type situation where like
hi pot meet kettle.
I know where Anthony is not like seeing what's
true.
really going on because I have become this more submissive in this relationship.
I don't know that that's true.
Okay, can we just distracted? I was looking at the lighting.
Oh yes.
Hallelujah,
okay,
Stephen.
come through lighting.
The lighting, because I was looking at my skin. It looked like my nose is contoured and everything. I'm all hallelujah. Okay, we take a moment. My skin looks amazing. We all look amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, for folks who are listening or watching, if you have an experience with HALT that you want to share or some thought or want to anything, we want to hear from you. With that, I just wanted to thank Stephen, who is the newest member of our production team. He's been with us for a few months, and he's
he came back. He was
he was with he left. He was with us, and I was like, I'm not feeling this, and then he went, no, that's not true. That's not what happened. He was like, y'all don't pay, and so
he got us all into having this.
He was extra, because he has
extra attention, and then he just left.
Yeah, he was like, oh, I'm gonna upped our game a little bit, and then left, and we were like, wait a minute, but you have so many more talents.
Exactly.
Speaking of hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
You know what? And we don't say this enough. If you're someone in our community and this is something that is special to you or want to be a part of this, we want you to be a part of our team because we can always stand to have more folks who are helping us to look good.
Yeah. And we no, for sure. And we're growing a lot, right? So this is a little bit of an aside, but we've grown a great deal. Last year, I've talked about in previous episodes, we grew by 120%. We have listenership all over the country, all over the world. And, as we continue to get bigger, the more people we have on our production team, the more we're able to invest in the show. And
we get to convince amazing people like Mike to
we can
come on.
Then they're more likely to come on when they feel like someone might be listening. Although Mike doesn't care. Mike Mike doesn't even listen to us. So that's not true. Mike does.
Back to hungry, angry.
Yeah.
This is something that happened early on in recovery for me.
What's that?
I remember I had to go in. I was in co-op and I was responsible. My big responsibility was paying the cable bill, the Comcast bill. And so I remember I was running errands and not thinking, and I hadn't eaten. I was starving and I was waiting in line and I was frustrated and everything. And I stopped for a moment and I realized, okay, what do you need to do first? what do you need to do first so that you can not like lose your mind? Because I also had to go to the bathroom. I had to use the facilities. And so I ended up doing that, then going getting something to eat. And by the time I came back, it was still a long line, but it was so much easier to kind of deal with. And so it's like it's that emotional like or that's reprieve's contingent on my spirit.
Spiritual maintenance.
And so it was in that moment, and I mentioned that because that was like one of the first opportunities I had to actually put it to practice. And then I realized, oh yeah, there's something to this stepping back, going checking off my list and making sure these things are okay so that I make sure so that I'm not shocked and surprised when I find myself having cravings that I can't break away from.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, that's whenever I find myself, and so this, going back to things I've said before, is like one of the reasons why it's so important for me to stay involved with people in the fellowship, or just people who are either living spiritual lives. Or do we have a comment? Oh, let's see that comment before I go on.
Anka! I have had to learn, and I'm still learning how to set boundaries around my capacity to be there for others. I work with traumatized humans all day, and sometimes I just don't have anything left in the tank. Absolutely. Anka, if you haven't seen the episode Anka on it, it's like, please go back and listen or watch.
Yeah, go listen to Anka.
Thank you, Anka.
Yeah, thank you, Anka. What I was thinking, what's that? I hear some feedback coming from somewhere. I think it might be it's probably fine.
I was going to say that
maybe people don't hear it.
In response to Anka's comment, that if you think about the 4 components of HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, I mean, to do the opposite, to be fed, to be in community, to be happy, and to be rested.
Yes.
Like all the issues around self-care.
Yeah.
Over and over, like it's a good prescription on for folks who are in recovery, how to maintain recovery is to just answer the four questions. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired?
That's right.
And what do I need to do? Because for me, I remember when I was first coming back, the issue of food was huge. That I didn't have the money for it. I felt awkward going out to fellowship with people, and then letting the fellowship take care of me was a whole new terrifying experience of being able to say,
God, yeah.
I can't afford a burrito, and having people say, I'm paying this forward and I'll help feed you. I'm paying this forward and I'll walk with you.
Right.
It's huge for me.
I was listening. And also for folks who are interested in listening to Anka, she was on Mind Body Connection with Anka, a queer recovery podcast. It was on a Friday. Yes, I think one of the things that comes up for me whenever I'm feeling out of sorts is I love what you said earlier, that you're like not good at like diagnosing yourself, right? And I find that I have to be around other people who know what fucking addiction looks and sounds like. And those are that and my therapist, those are literally the only people that I can listen to. But not everyone, right? Like there are people like Lewis that I can hear. Like there are very few people that I can hear hard truths from. And those hard truths like that I've been able to get from people because it's been cultivated with me. And so that's why I think it's, for me, important to be around other people. Like you were saying, like it's easier to see in sponsees, it's easier to see in friends, right? And I think that's another benefit of going to meetings and being around other addicts and alcoholics is you start to see the patterns, right? And that's so, recently I was going to share a story of something that happened yesterday. I was talking to someone that I care about. And very long story short, I noticed that I started to get angry, but the difference was that in my body, there was a choice, where there was a time where I didn't feel like there was a choice, right? Before I used to be identified with the feeling and I'm like, I'm fucking angry and I'm just going to ride this, where yesterday I realized, actually, no, I can be angry, but I can be angry respectfully. Like I can communicate what I'm feeling and thinking, and I don't have to be an asshole when I do it. And there was also some choice there. The choice was, I don't need to rage, right? There's a difference between being angry and being rageful. I'm working on the 4th step with one of my sponsees, and we were looking at the 7 deadly sins. And one of the differences, at least that are marked between anger and wrath, is that anger is focused. right? Where wrath is, it's chaotic and it's all over the place. What were you going to say?
Well, it just struck me that what was really helpful for me when I came back was that there were people that I saw in the rooms who were modeling behavior that I could identify as being healthy. And, being out there, using it, pretty feral coming back in the room. And
Straight
up.
Yeah.
My favorite word in the NA literature is dereliction, because that's one thing I think we can all identify with, was that moment at which, Gatorade bottles under the bed, and just all the ways in which I sort of betrayed my integrity. And being in a room,
you were fancy because I had a mattress on the floor.
I thought you were going to say you peed in your mattress.
No, no. I'm a Virgo.
But you know what I mean? That being in these rooms and finding the people that were sort of showing me how to be angry respectfully, how to be,
That's right.
how to be vulnerable, how to reach out, how to create, to become human again, because
how to talk about the things they need to talk about without using manipulation as a
I'm a hostage taker.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my favorite thing.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I love, there's some people in the room who I've seen them just take an L, but like take a loss. Like, for example, I've been at business meetings where, people are arguing about something and someone says something insulting about them, and I've watched people be like, I'm not gonna do it. And I'm like, that's really impactful. In the same way that when you go to meetings and you see the same people there, that actually is pretty impactful. That can be, I think only in the last year I've realized that that's a form of service.
Yeah.
When you see someone go to the same meeting, because there's something
sit
really
in the same spot and just there. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Did we have a comment, Stephen? Oh, okay. So, we have 15 minutes left. So can we talk about what's that face, Louis?
No,
I'm sorry. I don't know. I think I profiled you.
That's okay. I am quite used to being profiled.
Oh no, stop. Mike said I'm not getting canceled.
We've had a few episodes in the past where if my mouth was open or closed, it's like I'm off.
Yeah, it's my trauma. I'm scanning for threat. But so with our last 15 minutes, can we talk a little bit about how do we practice it currently, currently in our lives? So say a recent experience, or do you have an understanding that is different from the one that you had in the past?
I actually, when I was sick, I was on all these meds and they sort of altered my body. And so now coming back into the world, I'm having to learn how to eat properly again, sleep properly again. And so HALT is sort of a great practical checklist for me. Like, am I eating healthy? I've got diabetes, so I've got to keep, all that stuff. And it's the L one. It's the lonely piece that really is the one that I'm constantly coming, up against. Like, what am I doing to not fall into this practice of isolation? Because
you're in my head.
Right.
You're in my head right now.
I'm dangerous alone.
Yeah.
I know that. And that, though, isn't always enough of a motivation to get me to not be alone. But sort of running my checklist down of, I'm better at my sleep. I'm better at expressing my emotions. I'm talking to my sponsor. I need to be around people and people that I know will hold me even when I am crotchety and just piss and vinegar.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Louis, what were you going to say?
Well, no, like I said, you were in my head because I was thinking the same things too. It's like, part of me now is about being proactive for the lonely piece. As much as I like to go home, turn on the TV and do nothing, there are times when I do that and it's not a problem. But I've decided I'm going to go to that meeting. I'm going to go to fellowship. I'm going to go connect. I'm going to answer the phone. I'm going to reach out to somebody because as it's not always going to be the case, and sometimes it turns on a drop of a dime, like 1 minute. And it's like I was explaining before, that EKG type situation that I go through where good me, it's flatline, but then all of a sudden, like blip, blip. And if I can get stuck in that blip, and I don't want to do that. And so, and it's been so cool. I don't know if you are experiencing that, and maybe you are now that you're back out and about, and you as well. But there's been this renewal this vibrant kind of energy, all of these new people coming in, and not necessarily new to recovery, but new to this area and this community, who have kind of inspired me to kind of, I enjoy seeing them. I love when they come by my job. I was telling one of my friends, it's like, I love it when people who I like want to see come by my job, but they come by, and even though it's just a quick visit or whatever, it's like, oh man, it's so lovely. Being reminded that I'm connected to something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Now you're in my head, because I was just thinking about how hungry, angry, lonely, tired, how in my experience with addiction, that addiction, like I can do almost anything alcoholically, right? And being hungry, angry, and lonely, tired. This is the other thing that I appreciate about step 4 and the way it's written about in Alcoholics Anonymous, is that it talks about how we, every human wants their fair share of love, of relationships, of money, right? And that the problem with addiction is that it's always we always want more. By we, I mean the way it's written about in Alcoholics Anonymous, we always want more than our fair share, right? And so it's like, yeah, we're hungry, but that doesn't mean we need to go like gorge on food. And we might be angry, but it doesn't mean we have to be wrathful. We might be tired, but that doesn't mean we should be sleeping for 4 days straight. What was the other one? Lonely doesn't mean that like now we have to have sex with 15 people.
But we can if we want to.
But we can if we want
because
to.
It's okay.
You can have sex with 15 people. You can have all the food you want in the world. You can be wrathful. You can do whatever you want. And this addict alcoholic, I realized that I am prone to operating in extremes. When I'm sad, I want to be very fucking sad. When I'm angry, I want to rage. And so that's the way it's operated for me, which is like, go ahead.
It's not just enough to be that way. I want other people to know that I'm that way.
Right. It's like, what's interesting about what you're saying is like, I've thought about like, oh, you know what? I probably shouldn't hang out with that person. And like a younger version of me would have been like, I need to tell that person I'm not going to hang out with them. And I'm going to tell them why I'm not going to hang out with them. Or you could just not do it.
You could just not. Exactly. That's, just kind of not, I always say, my favorite thing is like, on that thing, it's like, I realize that some people, I just have to love them from across the street.
Yeah. What were we going to say, Mike?
Well, love them how they're able to be loved.
But I'm the personality type that if I'm feeling angry, I immediately don't want to feel angry. Like I need to find a way to fix the immediacy of the emotion that I'm not comfortable with. And part of recovery for me is trying to figure out which of those emotions that I need to sit with and ride versus which of the sort of actionable items that I can actually change. I can change whether or not I'm hungry. I can change whether or not I'm tired. I can change whether or not, I'm lonely. But some of those feelings that I confuse, not all feelings are HALT. There are other feelings that, as an addict, I'm not hardwired for feeling. I'm actually hardwired for sabotage. So give me a reason to not feel this way. I want to go to the other direction. So, there's that.
Oh, that's a damn good point. It's like knowing the difference, because there are some things that you've got to sit and marinate with. Yeah. So that you get some perspective.
I love that, Mike. And Louis.
That was sexy. And Louis. Hi.
I sat back for that.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me. Well, it's overcorrect, and we don't want to overcorrect. And I love the reason why I love what you're saying is because when I first got sober, I thought I had to be like the perfect AA. I couldn't get angry. I couldn't like have flaws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even like as a therapist, I've had that where I'm like, I know better. I should never get angry. I should always be accepting and loving of people. And that's just not how humans work. Like if you're a human, you need to allow yourself to participate in the human experience, right? And I think part of that for me anyway is learning how to hold all of those things.
Right. Yeah. I'm allowed to fuck up. It's part of my human experience. I had a boyfriend one time who was also in the program with me, who said to me one day, just because you're being rigorously honest doesn't mean you can't take responsibility for what you've just said. Because I thought, I'm just going to be rigorously honest, and didn't take into account how he was going to experience what I was going to tell him. Or I'm just like Mr. Perfect, clean and sober. Like I'm practicing my programming.
Right. I really feel they thought, and then we have to start wrapping up. But I really feel, and I've talked about this before, is that the big book feels divinely inspired to me, because there's just so many things that they got right. And one of those things is like when we're making an amends, for example, it's like, unless we're going to injure them or ourselves, you know what I mean? Then we don't do it. And I think about that when it's like, all right, I need to tell this person this thing, but like, is that really what I need to do? Like, I can remember years ago, I'm going to confess something. So years ago, I was in a relationship. This is before I was in SLA. And I was at the time telling the person that I was with that I was going to a meeting when I was actually hooking up. Not my best. I'm in another program because of that. That was over 7 years ago. I'm not proud of that. And I can remember, I forgot where I was going with this, but now you know all
That's
my
some
tea.
good shit.
Yeah. Wait, what were we talking about? What were we talking about?
Permission to fuck up.
Oh, permission to fuck up. Oh, I don't remember, but I do remember. Oh, yes, I do remember. I remember like I had shared about this at a meeting, and some guy after the meeting came up to me. He goes, "Oh, so you're the cheater?"
Oh,
And I'm like, "Bitch, you act like I'm with you." I didn't say that, but I was thinking it. But I remember feeling so upset about that, and I called my sponsor up, and she was like, "Anthony, you're just another addict and an alcoholic. You're just like like the rest of us, you know." Because I was like beating myself up over that for such a long time, but you know. It is what it is so many years later.
That was a situation where, you know how we were talking about, I can't hear it from everybody. As somebody that I had cultivated the relationship with said, "Oh, so you were the cheater," we could laugh about it, or I could like actually like think about it in the way that I need to think about it.
Well, I wasn't really a cheater either. I was in an open relationship, but the way I was going about having my needs met was very dishonest.
But you were a cheater.
I was being
you were a cheater. You were cheating to yourself.
Well, I was being dishonest, right? Like if I was going to go hook up with someone, I should have just said that. Well, or actually, you know what? I remember what I was going to say. My sponsor said to me, because when I was started to lie and stuff like that about like, despite being in an open relationship, my sponsor says, you don't get to go run to your partner and tell him what you did, because that's going to hurt him. You instead, you have to live with yourself now. And you have to, you know, if you want to make a living amends, then that's what you do. That was the first time. This was, like I said, over 7 years ago. This was like the first time where I was like, wait, what? Because I thought I was getting a green light, like, oh shit, like my sponsor it was much fucking harder for me to live with myself, right? Because what I realized is that back then, like my telling the truth was just my trying to like offload what was troubling me. So it was actually, I thought she was doing me a favor when actually she's like, no, bitch, you're going to work for your recovery. And this is what it feels like. That was a really great experience. All right. What were you going to say, Liz?
I was listening. I was thinking it was also a missed opportunity to see what it was about that experience that was really turning you on.
Not turning me on.
No, it probably wasn't. No, I thought about it. It's like, if I'm keeping secrets in an open relationship, then it's probably because I can answer that. I think about like, I always joke and say, but you know, I really think back to before like I fully came out and I would hook up and the thoughts of getting caught was the turn on for me. That, you know, even if I was freaking out about it, but it was still something that made the experience so hot, because now it's like, whatever, everybody knows what I do.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it was, I knew that my partner at the time was agreeing to be in an open relationship, but I knew that he wasn't doing it for himself. He was doing it to stay with me. Right. And so anyway, but what I took away from that was like, one is that, and this is totally off topic, but what I realized is that I thought that's what I needed. I thought I needed an open relationship because I thought like, oh, I know what my problem is. Like, I need to be able to hook up whenever I want to hook up. And the truth is that I was never satisfied.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had all the hooking up in the world. I felt like I started falling for someone outside of my relationship. It was like total chaos. And in the end, I'm like, that's how I ended up in SLA, because I was like, oh, I've got a problem.
This is how our conversations always go.
Yeah, we always start off over here and then we end up somewhere else.
But because it gets real juicy, because all of a sudden it's like I'm practically hungry.
Well, I need to take care of the moment that you knew that you were lying. Was that not sort of like did that not set sort of alarm bells off in your brain?
No, you know, during that time I was working a very half measures program.
Okay.
I was like slowly like falling out of the program. I was like justifying, you know, when you like, maybe you don't have this experience, but like when you start believing your own shit and there's no one around you to check you, you know what I mean? Like you're not talking to a sponsor or friends or at meetings. So I started believing my own madness.